Hey guys, welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews, and today we're going to talk about Sony not allowing crossplay. So a lot of you have probably already seen that Sony has recently discussed that they don't want to allow crossplay when you have the Switch now doing crossplay with Microsoft and Windows on two different games. So it was Rocket League and Minecraft, both of which are pretty big name games. I mean, they're both indie titles, but both of which have a huge following for being respectively indie titles. I thought it was pretty interesting because Microsoft did really want this for Minecraft to be pretty much playable cross-play-wise between all devices, like iPhone, Android, Xbox. Everything that you can get Minecraft on, essentially Microsoft wanted it to be able to be played with whoever's playing it on whatever else. Which I support. I thought that was an awesome idea. And it seemed like it was going to have a lot of backing. Up until Sony decided they didn't want to do it. And a lot of that kind of came to light at E3 when everyone started seeing that Sony was the one who was kind of out in the cold. Now, Microsoft has recently stated that they really tried to get Sony on board with this. They made several pitches to Sony about getting this to be something that they would be on board with. Didn't work. And Sony just recently gave a comment on why they will not allow it. Well, it's a very corporate style comment. I don't think it's the real reason, which we're going to get into as well. Especially when you see a company like Nintendo, who is normally one of the more close-minded, doesn't really work well with others company allowing this, and then Sony, who's supposed to be progressive and spearheading the industry, isn't. So Sony's CEO stated, or I don't know if it was CEO, I don't remember who it was, but it was a really big interview. I'm sure everyone has probably seen it at this point. But they stated the reason they're not allowing crossplay is because they cannot control what is said or possibly done on other networks. So, and since it's a bunch of kids, so like example would be if I were to go on there and call the kid a little D-bag and then repeatedly talk about how I slept with his mom and then drop my nuts in his face in a virtual world. Sony's saying they can't control that because it's not just their platform. They can't control the experiences from the others. Which, the reason why I'm going to go ahead and safely call BS on this is Sony can't control the experience on their own network. And I'm not necessarily saying, oh, well, you can submit a complaint. That doesn't necessarily mean that that individual is going to get banned for what they are doing. But they're worried about the younger kids, because that's what plays Minecraft mostly, or younger kids, at least how Sony views it. They're worried about the type of interaction they'll get on these other platforms. Now, when you really kind of step back and look at this, Nintendo is the one who is family friendly. Like, if I were to line up all three consoles to you in a PC, you'd probably say, oh, Nintendo's going to be the safest one. There's going to be less violent stuff, and I don't have to worry about as much what my kid's playing on a Nintendo system, which would be fair, but they're allowing it. They're not sitting there and restricting this like Sony is right now, which is kind of shocking to me. Now, a lot of this is going to be speculation and just simply why I think Sony is blowing this smoke in this direction. So as a lot of you know, Sony does not have the greatest online experience when it comes to servers or network strength or even just to complete server maintenance or security. Sony is not the strongest in those categories. Each time that both consoles got hacked, Xbox was down for maybe a day, Sony was down for a week, or the first time when they got hacked by Anonymous, Sony was down for over a month. So it's really interesting to see that Sony is trying to give you this one excuse when I know a lot of it's probably got to do more with their end, and they don't want to be as transparent about that as what they probably should be. So I also think their other fear would be, now we have Microsoft accessing our servers. Who's to say Microsoft might not just, oh, so this is what Sony's working on. They could then possibly leak those files. They could then possibly rip that story. I mean, it's really hard to say. And I don't necessarily think that's their biggest concern. I think their biggest concern is them opening up more, and that's going to leave them more susceptible for other attacks. And Sony hasn't really had the best history with being able to fend off or being transparent with those attacks. Obviously, when Sony originally got hacked, there was a huge thing about how much customers' data was actually leaked. I mean, it was pretty bad. It was really bad. If you do not remember the PS3 hack that happened, it was bad. The one that followed after, where it was Xbox and PlayStation, so Xbox One and PS4 both got hacked. PlayStation 4 was down for about a week. Xbox was down for a little under a day. And a lot of that comes with Microsoft owns all of their servers. All of Microsoft's servers belongs to them. All of Sony's servers, not so much. Sony mixes in a lot of rented servers, and Sony doesn't have quite as much server power, and I don't think Sony invests as much into network security as what Microsoft probably does, which is really weird to say security and Microsoft in the same sentence, because we all know you have a virus from porn. So I found it very interesting that they're giving a, oh, well, we can't control this, and that's BS. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. There is nothing that will make me buy that lame excuse that Sony is trying to feed everyone. Especially considering that most people who are playing on a Sony console are probably playing like Destiny or, Call of Duty. A lot of those kids are playing games that are already violent and already have very grotesque content. All of a sudden you're worried about some grown man talking about what he did to their mom. I'm guaranteeing that kid's probably going to say worse on the interwebs than what that grown man's going to say to the kid. So I don't know. I'm not saying that maybe Sony is being honest. Maybe that really is just where they kind of lay with it. But the last time Microsoft mentioned crossplay, Sony decided to state that they had already done it. Like, they stated, oh, well, we've let people play with PC before. We've already done this. That's literally how they blew it off after Microsoft had stated that, hey, we're willing to work with Sony and we're willing to open up crossplay on certain games. I think that would have been really cool, and I think they would have been smart to take advantage of it, because they could have done Xbox versus PlayStation users. There was a lot of different routes that could have went that would have been really interesting. So, like, I could get onto a Call of Duty game and it would be Xbox versus PlayStation, or I could just decide to play with all Xbox users, or however I wanted to go. There could have been a lot of interesting ways they could have pinned that while still maintaining like competition between the two. So I don't know if Sony's ever honestly going to be okay with it, but I find it very bizarre for them to have taken the stance that they did and for them to have presented it the way that they did, especially when they're not known as being the family-friendly console. Like, I don't view PlayStation and go, oh, that's safe for my kids. They got the Marios on it. No, I view it as, oh, that's the Sony. They've got the crazy sexual JRPGs and some good single-player exclusives. And I can also play Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever game that makes me want to make your head go boom. We'll find out. I'm sure eventually more will come to light about this. I'm sure we'll have to wait probably a little bit, though, for that to happen. But guys, thanks for watching. I'll have plenty more content coming for you soon. Let me know in the comments down below why you think they won't allow crossplay, because this is all just speculation at this point. I like my opinion, though, and I think my opinion's pretty based in logic. Could be wrong. maybe I'm terribly wrong, but guys, if you do enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you around with plenty more content coming for you soon.